You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James. How you going, boys?
Yeah, not bad.
Callum almost derailed the show.
Okay. Yeah.
Right before we went live.
It's so hot, and
It's very hot.
it's kind of
And now it's raining.
Yeah,
Now
it's
it's
all
getting
muggy. It's disgusting.
I put all my insect repellent on before I left the house because I knew it was going to start raining.
Oh,
Me
yeah.
too, actually,
Yeah. We're talking about something fun today, but yeah.
Sort of fun. It's sort of like, I guess, fun that kind of makes you feel a bit dirty as well.
Oh yeah, it's sleazy, but still fun.
Yeah.
We're talking about our second favourite sword and sorcery series, not Conan. We're talking about Deathstalker.
Yeah, after
Specifically 1 and 2.
Yeah.
There's other movies, but we're not going
There's
to talk
3
about
and 4,
them
but
today.
we won't talk about them.
Yeah, the series really drops off.
The first two are the notable
Don't
movies.
worry, listen to the end of the show, and the series is making a big comeback. But yeah, for context, we watched these. So after Conan the Barbarian came out in 1982, it was, like with, if there's any successful Hollywood movie, there's going to be smaller independent companies like just churning out B movies, like rip-offs.
Yeah, right on the coattails.
Yeah, right on the coattails. And so way back in 2018, when we had the old show, Man vs. Movies, and we watched Deathstalker 1 and 2, and we were talking about them on the show, and we're laughing about how cheesy they were and whatever. And then we rebooted the show as a Tuesday Review. Been doing that since 2019. But like since then, every once in a while, usually Callum will like bring up Deathstalker, and we'll all start laughing and joking. But it's like, if you haven't been a long time listener, like since the old show, which I don't think...
Can you even get those episodes
No,
anymore?
because our podcast host...
Yeah, good old shout out.
died.
Am I right?
Yeah,
Just
so,
left,
like, it's
and they were
lost.
like, "Don't worry, guys. We've
Yeah.
told this story on the show before. Don't worry, guys. We'll help everyone move along.
Yeah.
We'll send
No, they
over all the
didn't.
requisite files. They just ghosted our emails, and we never heard from them again. Great
So
time.
is Man vs. Movies lost media?
It technically,
I
would
mean,
be
I have
now.
it all backed up.
So
but
it's not lost media.
Oh,
We know
never
where it
mind.
is.
Yeah, we know where it is.
Just
It's
choose not to release
Look,
it.
because my
just-
thing
yeah,
is
not very good, though.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
those shows were never good, and I was just like, but I don't want to take them down because that feels dishonest. But then when the podcast host crashed, I'm like, well, it's like it's Batman Begins. It's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. So yeah, this is way back in the old
Reminds me of
show.
The Simpsons meme. You're
Like-
looking at it like pathetic.
Yeah,
Like 2017.
2018. It was September 2018. It was episode 99 of Man vs.
Oh,
Movies.
but sorry, I'm talking about when the old show first started. Never mind.
No, when the first
was
show
like
started was
2016.
like November 2016. Yeah. So we were doing it for a while, and then by 2018 I was like over it. And then we did it until 2019, rebooted it as Tuesday Review, and then I was over that. I'm over this show. And now it's this year we're like, yeah, let's make a comeback. Let's, do all the pack stuff and the interviews and stuff. But anyway, yeah, so it was a long time ago. We watched these Deathstalker cheesy fantasy B movies that, we thought were so much fun, really cheesy, sleazy, kind of just gratuitous sex and violence.
It has not aged very well.
No.
Yeah, but also it's aged in the best way possible.
It's also timeless.
Yeah, timeless classic in a different way to other timeless classics. Yeah, but like I was saying, like every time it comes up on the show, unless you've been a long time listener and you remember those old episodes, which even our listeners now probably don't listen to every episode. So I've always been like, we should revisit Deathstalker as the Tuesday Review and not just as it's from our distant past. And then last week or the week before, Callum bringing it up again. And I'm like, look, put a pin in it. We'll do it.
We'll do a special.
We'll do a special because we have to revisit. I can always say we have to revisit those movies.
Yeah.
I think before we go into the movie, I think we need to also talk about the context around the movie and the time it was made in.
Yeah, well, like I said, after Conan came out, which is one of the best sci-fi movies, fantasy movies ever made.
Yeah.
And just epic. And of course it did well, so there's all these cheap B movie rip-offs.
Oh, and they made a bunch
80s,
of them.
80s fantasy, like sword and sorcery movies. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was reading about Deathstalker after I'd watched it yesterday. And James Spadlati, credited as John Watson.
Oh, the director.
The director. he turned down Conan. Apparently,
Good.
yeah, good. I was like, on one hand, good, but he wasn't very happy about it afterwards because obviously Conan blew up and
Yeah.
it's the greatest.
But if he made
it would be
Conan-
something way different, probably.
Yeah.
But again, he doesn't. You like it's when you're that close to it, you don't necessarily see that.
Yeah.
Your movie will be different than his.
Yeah.
All he saw was the dollar signs.
Yeah,
associated
exactly.
With Conan.
Yeah.
And so in the aftermath of Conan, he's like, "God damn it, I made a huge mistake."
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make
like-
my own Conan.
It's like Sean Connery was supposed to be Gandalf, and then he didn't do it, and then Lord of the Rings became huge,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Crap, I should have done it." And then he was supposed to be Morpheus in the Matrix, and he's
Ooh.
like, "Crap," and that came out,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Crap, I should have done it." And then when they offered him the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he's like, "Oh, finally, I'll take this one, and then it'll blow up." And that movie sucked, and he's like, "I'm never acting again," and he quit. But like, if I'm thinking of him as Morpheus,
Awful.
I'll be like, the Matrix would
You're
not
very different.
probably be the phenomenon
Yeah.
it is. It might be a weird cult movie. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Sean Connery, but
yeah.
it would have been a very
Yeah.
different timeline.
Yeah,
like Will
yeah.
Smith was supposed to be Neo.
Oof.
It's like that would have
Yeah.
been a very different.
feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like all these sword and sorcery movies in the 80s, they're a direct response to Conan.
Yeah.
And John Watson basically decided, I'm going to make my own goddamn Conan
With no money.
with no money.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's going to be in Argentina.
Well, I think because I think Roger Corman had something to do with like producing the movie, so
Yeah.
he's known for like making cheap kind of B movies and rip-offs, and his thing was he used to come up with the name and the poster, and then he would worry about making the movie after. And I feel like Deathstalker is 100% that,
Yeah.
because Deathstalker sounds cool, but it
Yeah.
makes no sense for the world or the character that's created, because they probably came up with the character and were like, "Oh, he's just Conan," and then they had to quickly cobble together
Yeah.
a fantasy script, and also they shot it in Argentina for like 400 grand, and
Conan,
think-
Corman made 10 movies in Argentina.
yeah, he had like some sort of
Yeah.
deal over there.
Yeah.
Like it's all about like
Yeah.
penny pinching.
Yeah.
And Deathstalker, both 1 and 2, is like definitely a exercise in like just squeezing the money out
yeah.
and then getting a big return when you because
Yeah.
you can put it on VHS. The 80s VHS market
Yeah.
was just starting straight
Yeah.
to
And
home
apparently they
video.
also used to, I mean, it's in the title, B movie, right? They
Yeah,
used to
that's-
play these movies at cinemas.
That's why they're
before
called
the-
B movies.
The A movie, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, you have an A movie and a B movie.
Yeah.
And the A movie is the big with the big name stars
Yeah,
and
so
the
you're
big
Conan the
budget.
Barbarian.
Yeah, and
And then
then
they play Deathstalker.
yeah, and then you
beforehand.
have a crappy kind of
Yeah, and then I'd leave happy after Deathstalker. And
Yeah.
don't worry about Conan.
I think people now they say B movie to mean like bad, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that people consider Fast and Furious movies B movies because they're like dumb
They're
and
silly,
silly
yeah.
and over the top. But a B movie is actually just a lower budget kind of
the support act. Yeah.
support. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the opening, the opening band or whatever.
Again, people don't have enough attention spans for B movies these days. You got me going to see 2 movies. People are mostly done after.
can you imagine- imagine-
we did it a lot. during
Imagine
our-
Yeah.
living in a world where you just go to Hoyts or whatever or Village and there's like 2 movies playing.
Well, I think
you get
we've-
there early to watch the B movie.
I think we've talked about this before. Where going to the movies, you used to just like flip them a quarter, or whatever the
Yeah.
Australian equivalent would be, 50 cents or $1, whenever depending what year it was. You flip them that, and there's like just the movies are playing all day. And you can walk
Yeah.
in and out, and
Yeah.
there's people, and there's people leave their kids there, and it's like
yeah.
and it was like. And they had the cartoons and the newsreels, and
Yeah.
it was like a
I think obviously back then, I guess they probably didn't charge as much for the films to be playing at the theaters anyway. So it was more of like just get people in the door because you're making money from the concession. Like you're not really the
Yeah.
overheads are a lot lower. I think back in the day.
Yeah,
But that's my assumption.
They also, I feel like they had more. I mean, Australia is different than America, but they just had more cinemas.
And more films.
Well, no, I think
Arguably-
we have more films, but
like,
they had.
I guess there was more
like,
access for
there
films
was-
at theaters then too.
There's just more like
Now if it's
now
not a
it's-
Disney movie, I don't know
Yeah.
about playing it.
like there are less smaller
Yeah.
kind of cinemas.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Melbourne's pretty good. We got a few, but I
Yeah.
feel like there used to be like
Oh,
one
yeah.
every.
Yeah, it used to be an industry.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
But anyway, yeah. So back in the 80s, they were just churning out
these big movies.
Mad Max came out, so they made all these cheap kind of post-apocalyptic movies. Star Wars came out, so they made all these cheap kind of space opera, sci-fi movies. Conan comes out, and they make all these cheap kind of sword and sorcery movies where it's just like a buff, half-naked guy.
What is it?
He-Man, kind of with a big sword, and there's like naked women everywhere, and he's just gory, like killing people with a sword, and it's awesome.
He's macho.
Yeah, it's very 80s. Like everyone has big hair, and cheesy kind of synth score, and just like.
Oh, I've had that theme song stuck in my head all day, but now I can't think of it.
Yeah, no, I was watching the first one. I'm like, the actual theme song is pretty cool, but the score in the scenes is just cheap garbage.
The actual theme song, I've had the theme song in my head, but now at the show, I can't remember it.
Knowing B movies and Roger Corman, it's probably just a reused score, and then someone made the theme, and so the theme is the only real quote-unquote music.
But the theme was...
I can't remember, but it was pretty cool.
It's killing me now. Yeah. Because they reused it in 2 as well. It's the same kind of... Yeah. It's the same...
they're reusing footage and sound effects, sets, costumes, and music.
It's a staple.
It's the name of the game, especially in this franchise where they do it in Deathstalker 1. They like repeat footage within the same movie, and then you watch Deathstalker 2, and
they do it with a wink in there. Are they? It's in a self-aware fashion.
Not in the first one. Not in the first one. And then Deathstalker 2. No, again, Deathstalker 2 is much more. So I guess we should start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Deathstalker 1 is more of a straight B movie kind of rip-off of Conan. It's Rick Hill plays
with more I guess disrespect of the ladies, shall we say.
It's not a
it's more sleazy than
Conan is a gentleman,
to an extent. I mean, there's still but so
it's not a family movie.
No. But like the movies are basically, and they're made specifically for the gratuitous sex and violence. So it's just like if
they're
you're
trying to
get
the teenage kids.
If you're a kid, and it's like you get
this is one for the teenage.
You rent you rent the video, and it's basically like there's no internet, so it's like
don't worry, mum, it's just a fantasy film.
Yeah, it's just like you get a bit of softcore porn and some like gory violence.
Yeah,
and in between there's like, I wouldn't even call it a plot. It's just like scenes.
The characters move around.
Yeah, people happen around. So the first Deathstalker, Rick Hill, is like this big buff beefcake guy.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. And he's got a big sword, and he's like, I'm Deathstalker. And to give you...
We'll post a photo of Rick Hill on the socials.
To give you an idea, like the movie opens with an attempted rape scene.
Trigger warning, I guess.
Sorry. Also, spoiler warning, but it doesn't matter because the plot and characters mean nothing in these movies.
Yeah. But I do love the fact that it replays the opening footage at times. You know, with the horseman riding through.
Yeah, the horseman riding, the guy jumping through the. So cheap. Both movies are like.
I remember we were
barely 80 minutes.
We were watching one of the movies and they replayed that scene and we just started laughing, almost cheering.
Yeah. It's like they're just cheaply cobbled together, a lot of reused assets to keep the costs low, and the first one's more of just a straight-laced copy of Conan.
Yeah.
So, he's and then he has to save the princess.
Is he a mercenary or is he just some wandering swordsman?
They're so vague. Like they're like, oh, he's like a thief. They say at one point, but he never really steals anything. And then
he steals our hearts.
Yeah, and then the king is like, oh, they took my kingdom, and he's like, I'm not interested. And they're like, and he's like, oh, they've taken my daughter, the princess. He's like, can you save her? And he's like, okay.
He's meant to be some sort of like brigand with a heart, basically.
Yeah, but it's like I said, the plot, the character, the script, it doesn't matter. Like none of it makes sense. Like scenes just kind of end. Like character will be talking and it'll just cut to the next scene, and it's like none of it really matters.
I'm on the Wikipedia page right now, and I didn't realize it made a lot of money.
Yeah, but man, that's the point. Is like these movies, especially Roger Corman movies, like they made a lot of them, made them real cheap, and they made bank. But the first one's like a kind of more serious, just fantasy,
straight-laced kind of.
Whereas then the second one is like originally.
Are we gonna circle back to the first one?
Yeah. We could. Do you want us to just start going through all the stuff in the first one?
Well, I just wanted to mention how fun some of the practical stuff is in this film. Like, for such a cheap film. Also, there's a scene with the first time you see like a big practical monster or whatever. It's also this hilarious scene where he goes into this cave as a boy, or is this?
No. He goes into the cave for how he knows about the cave, I don't know. He goes in. There's like a little troll guy.
Yeah.
And then the little troll guy is like, I've been stuck in here for 30 years. I used to be a man now. And then a big giant comes out.
Yeah.
And then he starts fighting. And then the little troll guy is like, here's a magic sword. And he takes a sword and he scares the giant off and the giant runs away. And then the troll guy is just like, the only way I can get back to being human again is if a boy who's not a boy leads me out of the cave.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts and Deathstalker is a little boy now.
Yeah.
And he just he leads the troll outside and then it cuts and then they're both men. Like Deathstalker's back and then the troll is turned into a man.
He's like slightly magic.
I feel like it's inferred because there's obviously it's a magical world. There's magic. I feel like it's inferred that Deathstalker has some sort of...
No, but you're like... there's no world building in this movie.
No.
There's no... the fantasy is just like because people are wearing fantasy clothes and carrying swords. Yeah. There's no thought put into the magic or whatever.
No.
It's just like that... I think last time we talked about this movie, years ago, I said, this movie's written and directed by cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It is in South America.
Yeah, and they made it in South America, so, there's more pure.
I think everything, but it wouldn't surprise me if in the quote-unquote lore, Deathstalker has some sort of
But they don't magic. See, that's the thing, is with these movies, they don't explain anything. It's just like scenes happen, and it's just like nudity, violence, the end. And it's just like, okay. And the reason these movies are fun is because they do have that endearing kind of practical quality that we miss in a lot of movies now, where it's just like, oh, cool Muppet, oh, guy wearing a pig mask, oh, awesome, guys just hitting rubber swords up against each other and going, yeah, and it's so cheap and cheesy, and you just kind of like, and the sets they're not cardboard sets, but it's that kind of aesthetic.
There's one moment in the tournament where there's like a guy with a foam hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And then he kills another guy and it shows the aftermath and it's just like some red cordial on the floor. And
it's like the bright red paint blood. Yeah. There is some like actual gore, but mostly it's just like...
Yeah, but like where did the body go?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It's just like... and like we love Muppets and kind of puppets and all that 80s kind of stuff. So even if it's a bad...
And again, as you said, the synth is cool too.
Yeah, and even if it's a bad practical effect, at least it's a practical effect. And you're like, haha, that's cute. The little castle that you can tell is a model, like...
Yeah.
And with like a big smoke machine blowing... It's like... It's not... it's not fooling anybody, but you're just like, oh, isn't that cool? And these movies are just fun to watch because it's just like... Yeah, they're a bit sleazy and they haven't aged well in certain attitudes, but...
Most attitudes.
Yeah, all attitudes.
Yeah. We say that, but...
There's like 6 attempted sexual assaults in the first movie. It's crazy.
But Deathstalker pulls his sword with the Force.
That was hilarious. Again, they just don't explain anything. The whole movie goes by.
Because Star Wars is in fashion.
He never has powers like that. And at the end, his sword's on the other side of the room, and he just like grabs it with the Force, pulls it too. So funny. And it has like the 80s blue lightning that Callum loves.
Yeah, I love it when it's drawn onto the frame or whatever. It just looks good. It looks better. We need to go back to drawing stuff on the film. Or I guess you could draw it on the screen of your computer monitor too, but it's not going to...
Yeah, you could replicate it digitally.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, and make it look...
Draw it on the film. Let's go back to film, eschew digital completely. Like Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean? Like, film in digital, and then if you want to add a film in analog...
Nolan films it...
Analog, and
film.
then... that's what I mean. And then you can digital it up later.
Yeah, that's what most...
But at least you get the flexibility to draw blue lightning
also,
on the film.
I know we've talked about this before, and it's like these kind of B movies is like they're shot on film. Yes, they're cheap and crappy, and they're just churned out to make a buck. But it's just like they go to a place and they film there. They build a set, even though it's cheap and it looks like it's going to fall over. they do things. It's real, and there's a tangible quality to it.
We did a B-movie special one time where we talked about how back in these days they tried to make a good film with limited means. Yeah, you can tell some of it was rushed and some of it's, whatever. But now when people try to make a B movie, they try to make a bad film, but they spend a lot of money doing it.
The best sort of so bad they're good movies are movies where the filmmakers intended to make something good, but they didn't have time or money or they weren't self-aware enough or the
like
skill.
The Room.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the reason that's like the greatest so bad it's good is because that guy was sincerely trying to make a great kind of romantic drama. Yeah. But he was like a weird alien who didn't understand filmmaking, human relationships, anything.
I did not.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the times they make deliberate bad B movies where it's like Sharknado or something where it's they're deliberately trying to make it bad and it becomes boring.
People miss the point of why we like these movies.
And also, like I was saying, because it's like 80s, it's practical. It's like they're fun to watch just from that aspect. Whereas a lot of movies now, it's like you can literally just see people standing in front of green screen.
You can see that in Marvel movies too now.
Yeah, even in the biggest
Quantumania?
budget. Yeah, I think we talked about how like The Fabelmans looks like a big budget movie because people are wearing old fedoras and driving old cars. It's like cars, and I was like, that's what a big budget movie. And we watch a Marvel movie and it's like $300 million, and we're like, where did all that money go? It's just in a computer.
Hollywood accounting.
No, dude, there's that scene in Quantumania where they just slap a texture on a green screen and everyone's standing on a flat surface. Yeah. And I was offended by it.
Yeah.
Deathstalker has none of that.
No, exactly. Because it's filmed practically.
Yeah. But I guarantee you someone will watch Deathstalker and, ignoring the blood and nudity and all that. Someone will watch it and go, this is so cheap and fake, but then they'd watch a Marvel movie and go, wow,
this is awesome.
This is
the
so
only
big
thing
budget.
I can say about Deathstalker is it hasn't aged well in terms of how the film looks. It looks grainy and kind of...
The film probably wasn't preserved.
I got the Blu-ray because I love these movies, and the HD transfer is pretty okay. It's like not the best.
The one I watched on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's
did not look great.
It's in 4:3. Yeah. So that I think that's like an old VHS rip, which honestly is probably the best way to watch these movies.
I know the movie I'm in for. I'm fine with it.
No, the best way to watch it is like old VHS quality, but the Blu-ray looked.
So I can see some people being like, "What am I watching?"
Yeah.
I'm like, because
the filmmaking is bad. Like I'm not saying, these actually are misunderstood.
Yeah.
Like especially in the first movie, like I said, the editing's really bad. The plot doesn't matter. Just like random scenes together. And the fight scenes are really bad. It's just them whacking their rubber swords together.
It's like a really low energy Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Think
sort of, yeah.
A lot of the action scenes in the first one, at least, they kind of cut away and you never really see any swords. There's a lot of moments where they SCOTUS are in the sword and then it cuts away and you see like horse legs. I
think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like it's like they probably had no choreography. It was just like get in front of the camera and start swinging.
Or some of the actors are like, I don't know, man, I don't want to hurt another guy, and then like
they're not getting close enough, so they just had to cut around.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So that's part of the film's charm. For me.
There's a reason it's like eight, not even 80 minutes. It's because they're just like, look, this is all we got. Like we just gotta. Stitch it together. But I think, that's part of the attraction, the charm. Yeah, it's just like there's guys riding horses, and it's got the old coconut clacking sound, and then they go, and there's magic and the sets and the rubber swords. It's like, oh, this is fun.
It goes back to what you were saying, and this goes for the second movie, which we'll talk about later as well. Is that they actually tried? Yes, it has no budget. Half the budget was spent on probably drugs. But it's like the actors. Rick Hill, he tries his best. The actresses, they all try their best. Pigman tries his best.
They weren't deliberately trying to make a bad movie. Exactly. They were like, look,
everyone involved is utilizing what resources they had to make a good movie.
We have a few bucks. We have to churn this out, and just and it ended up being a sort of.
Well, it was a success at the box office.
Yeah, and people
that Pigman scene alone worth the price of admission.
Oh, this is the reason I love this movie so much. So there's a big party scene. They get to the castle, and he's going to save the princess who's captive at the castle, whatever. Also, they're from the evil sorcerer. I will just
interrupt and say it's now a Disney princess. We haven't brought up that yet in this episode.
I remember we talked about
it on the last one. So Fox owns Deathstalker and Disney owns Fox.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Deathstalker in the next Kingdom Hearts game.
Bob
Confirmed?
Iger, who
Yeah.
listens to this show. No, we banned him from listening. He's not allowed to
Yeah.
listen.
Oh, yeah.
But if he
Yeah.
did listen, do something with Deathstalker.
yeah,
No, he'd
Well,
ruin
it
it.
might. You never know.
Yeah, no, that'd ruin it.
they would
Yeah,
never come to Disney
Pigman.
Plus.
Continue, please, James.
Oh yeah.
Pigman.
So the reason this movie is the best movie ever is because in the middle they go to the
The
Deathstalker goes to the castle to fight the evil sorcerer, save the princess. They're having a big feast, like a medieval
a
feast,
banquet, yeah.
and there's just like naked women everywhere,
It's chaos.
and just like all the warrior like men like just groping and like super rapey.
No one's respecting boundaries.
Yeah,
No.
and there's like a girls mud wrestling in the middle. It's just like good value from your rental in the 80s, your VHS. Your 12-year-old.
This is why
You know, back in VHS, you'd be able to tell when someone's rewinded so many times over the.
And then like do the frame by frame. And there's so many shots of just like. Yeah, it's just like there'll be shot, and it's like it just cuts
Breasts.
to just like cuts to like a woman's breast for no reason. It's like okay, awesome.
Again, they're going for a specific target audience. That includes
I'm
teenage
laughing.
boys.
I'm not laughing because I think it's hilarious. I'm laughing because of how silly it is.
It's
how
the
targeted
It was
it
the
is.
it was the time. It was the VHS era.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get away with it now, rightfully so.
Could you
I mean,
imagine?
they still do make sleazy movies,
Yeah,
but
but
it's not
not-
the same.
Yeah.
No, it's not- could you imagine being 15, 16 in high school in America or even in Australia, right? When this comes out and all of
my
a sudden
God.
you have access to all these
Yeah,
movies.
well, that's
and-
what I was saying. Is like it's a perfect VHS. Like you like dub it onto another
Yeah.
tape, and then
Yeah,
you give it
get
to your
that boys
friend at
over, watch
school.
Deathstalker.
Yeah, or you rent it,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're not allowed. You can't find porn because the internet doesn't exist, and it's harder to find. But so you watch these late night cable movies or these VHS kind of action movies.
Would it
They're
change
all like
people's
this.
lives?
There's heaps of movies like
Yeah.
this.
But yeah, so in the middle of this big banquet that's going on,
Yeah, so
there is a pig man.
There's a big kind of buff wrestler kind of guy with this leather like vest and
come back
this
to wrestling
leather
later.
cowl, and he's got a pig head, like he's a pig man.
yeah.
And the first time I saw this movie, I'm like, oh my god, Pig Man's awesome. And he's at the table eating, and then
He eats some
he
pig.
picks up like a glazed like pig,
Ham,
a pig head, like a roast pig head, and he looks at it, and he shrugs and he starts eating it. And I'm like, this is the best movie. This is the Pigman is the
Yeah.
best character. Then it shows more of the party, and Deathstalker comes in, whatever, and the nudity. And then a fight breaks out, and I'm like, oh, we're never going to see Pigman again. But I like that gag was fun. And then Pigman comes and he starts fighting all these guys. There's this guy with like a knife for a hand. Throws him. Pigman grabs him, throws him up to the roof, so his hand gets stuck. His
In the
knife hand gets
rafters,
stuck in the
yeah.
rafters. He's like dangling, and then Pigman's like fighting this guy, and he like hurts his hand, and he's like, oh, and he like shakes his hand, and he looks over, and there's another guy, and he rips the other guy's arm off and starts beating the other guy with the bloody
it's
end of the arm.
ridiculous.
I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so
Yeah.
funny. It's so dumb and just
but they knew
violent.
people would enjoy it.
Yeah. Like the movie goes from this is like a cheesy dumb to oh my god, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
It has those little gems in it.
Yeah, it's stuff like that you don't get.
But I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
this is-
Pigman makes his return, doesn't he?
He does. But before we get to number two,
Oh, he's at the end of the tournament when all the warriors
Yeah.
have the.
I'm
tournament.
talking about the same.
yeah, they reused that scene in the second.
same
Oh, in the
scene.
second movie,
Yeah.
yeah. But at the end of the first movie, when they're having the tournament,
Yeah.
Pigman, Deathstalker fights Pigman, and that's cool. And then then there's this plot of like there's a magic sword, a magic chalice, and a magic.
I think the
amulet.
necromancer or whatever
The sorcerer,
the sorcerer, he's not going to live forever, and there's a tournament to see who will be his kind of heir. And that's the
But
kind
then you find out it's a trick because he's
want
gathered all the warriors
to
to
kill
fight
each
each other,
other,
and they're
yeah.
going to kill each other off. And then whoever the winner is, who's supposed to take over as his heir, there'll only be one person left who can oppose him, and he kills that person,
Yeah.
and then there's no one left
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
oppose him.
yeah.
There's also that cool bit at the end where he duplicates himself, and there's all the
Yeah.
doubles, and it's clearly just like dummies and people in
Yeah, yeah.
bad
and then Rick
mustaches
Hill will like swing his sword and
Yeah,
like
and
it just
it'll
like hits
hit-
a dummy.
Yeah,
like,
and it's just like he's not really there. I'm like, this is so much fun. It's just so cheesy, and yeah, I don't know. It's just there's something specifically. I've talked about it with like old horror movies as well before.
Yeah.
It's just like it's something comforting about these
I think it's worth a watch, but if you are sensitive to some issues, like
you have to know what you're getting into.
You know what you're going in for.
Yeah.
We're not telling our listeners to go watch it right now. Like, it does have some heavy themes.
You don't watch this. You don't watch this unless you're expecting a kind of macho, kind of silly.
It's a very
toxic masculinity manifest.
TNA and violence.
Exactly. It's
like,
a bit rapey, a bit sleazy.
Yeah, it's very sleazy. Cheap,
but do watch it if you're comfortable with those things. I wouldn't say it's for everybody.
I think in the kind of fantasy, like, because there's so many 80s fantasy like B movies, and then there's like Conan. There's Conan, which is like the A movie, which is the best of the best, and then there's like, you know, other sci-fi fantasy movies from the 80s which are good, like Willow and stuff, like whatever, but Labyrinth or even Lady Hawk. Yeah. But then there's like all those cheap kind of really sleazy ones. And out of those kind of more sleazy ones, you got like Beastmaster and Sword and Sorcerer, which are more like traditionally good.
Yeah.
They're low budget and they're a bit crappy, but they're okay movies. Whereas Deathstalker is like one of the... It's not the bottom of the barrel because there's much worse. But it is one of those where it's just like, this is barely a real movie. But I think it's the best one to show...
It has a strange charisma to it.
Yes.
It's like, I can't put my finger on it. All I can say is it has a charisma that carries it.
Yeah, it's just that...
It's not... Yeah, it's weird because like I can't say it's good in any way.
No, but it's a bad movie, but it's like it's so bad it's good kind of endearing.
There's a charm to it.
Charm, yeah.
I would like to watch a commentary, like, what is it?
I have
3000.
Mystery.
Mystery Science Theater 3000. They did do. I don't know if they did both movies. I'm pretty sure they did at least one of them. I'm pretty sure they has.
It's that kind of movie where I'd enjoy. It's enjoyable to watch.
Red
but it's
Letter
also
Media
enjoyable to make fun of.
Like it's like that kind. It's like that's what I was saying. Out of all these B movies, like B fantasy, sword and sorcery, kind of cheesy Conan knockoffs, Deathstalker is like the cult classic, best one to watch. You know. But you have to know that's what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Can't going in expecting loud.
No. Look, we'll move on to the second movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short break. You're back on the Tuesday review, talking Deathstalker this week. So we've just finished talking about the first Deathstalker, which again, go see. It's worth a watch. It's worth a giggle.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's a party movie. Watch it with your friends.
It's the best way to watch both these movies is like get a few friends together, get some beers, get whatever.
Some popcorn,
and just like laugh. Like the first time we watched them all together, and we were just laughing our ass off, and it was so much fun. And I was like knee slapping and being like, this is amazing. I remember the first time I saw Pig Band, I was like, I got up off the couch. I was like,
And the same goes with Deathstalker II, but in a different way. So if watching this as a double feature will give you whiplash.
Sort of.
When we saw the second, we were assuming it was just going to be a straight continuation in a way, like at least vibes wise.
So, the first one came out in 83, and then the second one came out in 87. So there's a bit of a gap. But originally, they were just going to make a sequel, like a normal sequel, a Conan ripoff, straight fantasy. And again, Roger Corman had a deal in Argentina or whatever, so it's like he brought the director. This one's directed by Jim Wynorski. So they brought the director out just to make another Conan ripoff, but they had, the sequel to Deathstalker. And he read the script and he's like, "This is garbage." So, and he just started from the start and he just rewrote it as like a parody of Deathstalker.
I'm glad they didn't use Rick Hill in this movie, because I feel like
that would have been interesting, though.
It would have been interesting, but it's the kind of the Deathstalker we get in this movie, played by
John Teleski.
He's more of a comedy actor, I would argue.
The first one, because he's a Conan ripoff, he's a big beef,
oily man
with kind of long
locks, flowing locks,
blonde kind of mullety locks, and he's kind of very stoic. And in the second movie, which Rick Hill plays him in the first movie, in the second movie, John Teleski plays him, he's more like a roguish, charming.
Acrobatic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's more of a thief than a.
He's like a Robin Hood. I think he even calls himself the Prince of Thieves.
Like, what is it? A gift to the. What is he? He redistributes wealth.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And then Evie
She's
says,
like,
"Well, take from the rich, give to the poor." And he's like, "No, take from the rich,
just
give it to
pretty
me."
much keep it for myself.
Yeah.
He's got like a Han Solo quality to him.
Exactly.
He's like this.
Exactly. Han Solo is the best kind of.
And
analog,
John Teleski is like not as beefcake kind
he's
of guy.
Ribbed, but
he's like a normal kind
more
of
athletic,
man.
So
So we're watching Deathstalker 2 for the first time, and it has the opening, and we're like, okay, there's the evil.
I'll
there's
have
that evil,
my revenge.
Yeah. There's that. You see the
he steals.
the
He
villain,
steals some sort of magical
like Indiana
item
Jones
or-
style. He takes the thing, and then the woman goes very dramatically, "I'll have my revenge," and Deathstalker 2, and then the logo comes up.
Smash cuts to the title.
Yeah.
And I was
Deathstalker
like,
number 2.
I remember, I was like, oh my god.
It was amazing. It was the funniest thing. I'm like, that's the greatest title drop of all time. I'll have my revenge. And Deathstalker 2. The way she says it though is so flat. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's the acting's terrible in all these movies, but like
I will say also, I watched this on Tubi, and the picture quality on Deathstalker 2 is much better.
Yeah, it looked great.
On streaming.
I saw it. It looked
is
awesome.
2 not on Amazon anymore, or did you just switch to...
No, I looked on Amazon, and I could only find the first movie.
Huh.
But the second movie, and actually the first 2 movies are both on Tubi.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I don't know if the first one is any better on Tubi. But
I remember the
second
first
one-
time we watched them both on
was on
Amazon,
Prime.
so maybe
Yeah.
they took the second one off.
Yeah, maybe. But it's on Tubi now, and it's in HD, and it looks really nice.
4K remaster win.
Well, I'm really because there are Blu-rays out there that are fine, which I have, but I'm hoping that a company like Vinegar Syndrome or one of those kind of they restore cult movies like B movies and made for TV movies and stuff that people like usually would just like stick their nose up at.
Yeah,
they like
stuff that's kind of cheap to restore that has a cult.
Yeah, they restore them and actually 4K like beautiful, and I think Deathstalker is the prime series to do that.
But yeah, Deathstalker 2.
Yeah, so Deathstalker 2, it ends up being a Mel Brooks style kind of parody of the first movie, and like they even make fun of his name because the name didn't make any sense in the first movie, but especially it makes even less sense now because he's this kind of roguish Robin Hood thief.
Yeah, well, he even says I'm Deathstalker, and Evie, the princess, spoilers. It says, "Is that your first name or your last name?"
Yeah,
and kind of
he
like
just doesn't answer.
Yeah.
And I think there's even a bit where he's just like the evil sorcerer Jarek or whatever, like the villain of this movie, because it's always just an evil sorcerer they had to defeat.
Yeah.
He's just like, who is that man who's causing me all this trouble? And his henchwoman is like Deathstalker, and they're both like kind of smirking.
Well,
like,
I know they funny
really?
if he has if he gets pulled over on his horse and he pulls out a driver's license and it says John Deathstalker.
It doesn't go that far into like Mel Brooks territory. There's a few bits where it definitely could have, and they don't. But there is a lot of like meta self-reference. They name drop Conan.
Yeah.
There's a bit like there's a lot of modern slang. Like it's not all the way like,
but it's about 50% there. Yeah,
it's close.
There's like I know they call him Stalker as well, so it's like they kind of shorten it a lot.
It's because Deathstalker, calling someone Deathstalker, especially in
it's a mouthful.
Yeah. But it's also it doesn't make the name doesn't make sense because he's not the Deathstalker. Like he's not the ancient like feared warrior. It's just like like I said, they came up with the title first, and then they just made up a cheap script. And the second one, because it's a kind of parody, it's like deliberately like just like, oh, this is silly, don't think too much about it. This one looks even cheaper. I think it's even lower budget than the first one, but it's as a movie like it kind of moves a bit better along. This is still not good, like the filmmaker's not particularly good or anything, but the scenes don't just end like in the first movie. And it has like some fun set pieces. There's a like graveyard with some zombies.
Yeah.
There's, the wrestling match, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Which again, this movie's self-aware because they get to the village, all these Amazonian warrior women, and they're like, we're going to Deathstalker, like we're going to punish you for your crimes against women or whatever. Because and then that's kind of not only a reference to this movie, but a reference to the first movie where he's just horrible to women and the treatment of women. And this movie has lots of nudity, not as much. It's not as sleazy. It's not as rapey. I think
No,
there's only
there's
one
yeah.
attempted
But
sexual
there's
assault.
actually there's lines in this movie where one of the women, I think Evie, is like, I don't need you, like I don't need you, I don't take orders from you or something.
I can't remember.
She says it to the sorcerer basically. She's basically just like, I don't care what you tell me, I'll do what I want, which is kind of like in contrast to the first film.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of correction, I guess, in terms of attitudes from the first to the second.
But it's still a sleazy because they were still trying to sell it as like a cheap kind of sex and violence movie. There's still just moments of it's less gory, less sleazy.
There's still
less
moments
nudity.
of just random gratuitous.
But yeah, it's just like and they reuse footage from the first movie, some of which is the nudity footage, which is hilarious because they'll just cut to a woman's breast and you're like, that's literally a shot from the first movie. But more importantly, is there's a scene again at like a tavern or like whatever, and they're reusing like the banquet feast footage from the first movie, and then they reuse that entire shot of Pigman eating the pig head. And the first time we saw this, it was so funny. But then later in the movie, not only does Pigman return, there's two Pigmen.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was so happy.
Yeah, double trouble. That's it.
So it's like not only were they cheaply reusing the footage, but they obviously still had the costume or one or two costumes, and like two guards come in, they're Pigmen, and they're carrying Deathstalker in, and he's just like, he's trying to explain like how he became a thief, and he's like, after my dad got laid off, things got pretty hard at home. Like it's just a silly Mel Brooks-esque kind of dialogue with like, and this is like just a very light coat of like fantasy plot of like gotta save the princess from the evil sorcerer, which is the same plot as the first movie.
Yeah.
Although I think Jarek is a more charismatic
he's a better villain
than the guy.
He's a better actor.
The guy, Also, like this, like Evie, she's pretending to be a peasant. In reality, she's the princess who's been deposed or whatever, and replaced with a clone by the sorcerer. So she plays two roles. Monique Gabrielle is the actor, and she's just adorable. Like she's so, like, none of the acting is good in this movie, but it's just like. So
apparently, the actress Monique Gabrielle, she did not in the production, like in the notes on Wikipedia, she did not want to do comedy, and that was like getting her to do like a funny performance. Apparently, was really,
but she's hilarious in this movie.
I know, and they had to work real hard on that. Apparently,
that's
it
weird.
didn't come naturally to her.
Yeah.
Which again, as you said, but she's hilarious. It sort of, you think it comes naturally.
There's a lot of like, why I order, and like, and she's like, what did I do? There's a bit.
Did I do that?
There's a bit where he's like, look in your crystal ball. Which way do we go, east or west? And she's like, west. And he's like, are you sure? He's like, yes. It's like, will there be any danger? No. Okay, and then it hard cuts, and they're both tied up, and it's like, no danger, huh? Yeah, it's like, no danger, huh? There's that bit. Oh, this bit's amazing. Where they're getting chased on the horse by the guards, and they lose them, and they're like hiding behind a tree. And Deathstalker's like, you got to get up pretty early in the morning to catch the Prince of Thieves.
And then an
arrow, one of the guards shoots an arrow, and it barely misses them. And Evie's like, it is pretty early in the morning.
While we're talking about the Mel Brooks, while we're talking about the Mel Brooks stuff, like the kind of the mercenaries that
the assassins
hires, and like their names,
one was called John the Baptist because he drowns people.
And there was like someone who was like
Ivan the Terrible's right-hand man. Or something.
There was something about he was in Genghis Khan's army, and he was like an assistant to Attila. Just kind of random.
Just like really silly names. All these.
And there was like a little person. And it was called Footstool or something. But he's like hard as a rock or something.
Yeah, he's like the most feared of them all. It's so funny.
Oh, it's so good. There's just so much that kind of almost slapsticky kind of humor. Yeah. Like even very early on in the movie, you have Deathstalker himself like trying to entertain some of these women, and he's like putting his hand over like a candle flame. He's like, whoa!
Oh yeah.
It's just like it's because so dumb.
It's because the script was probably written on a bar napkin, and they were like, okay, so in this scene he's at the tavern with some women, and it's like, what's he gonna be doing? And it's like, oh, we have candles. It's like he's gonna be acting like it's just like,
and it's just like he's trying to entertain and impress these women, but it's so dumb.
This movie's not even like, it's like 77 minutes, like it's even shorter than the first one, and they reuse footage from the first movie, so it's just like it's just quickly cobbled together. Like it's like
but it's awesome.
Yeah.
I do prefer Deathstalker 2 to Deathstalker 1.
Deathstalker 2 is
generally.
just a lot funnier. It's like it's a deliberate comedy, and it's less rapey, less sleazy, and it's just because of that shock of you're just like you weren't expecting to.
Yeah.
I think, again, for us going in blind as a double feature was the best way to watch these two movies for the first time. And there's an extent where we're ruining it for our listeners right now as well,
Look,
to an extent.
Because the plot and characters don't matter, so but the gags,
like, you know, if you're expecting, like, to go into this expecting Deathstalker 2 a sequel and then getting completely thrown off, I'm like, was this Ghost written by Mel Brooks? It was a good experience.
Yes. I do want to say, though, that if you are a Deathstalker fan, fear not.
No, we'll go into... I just want to mention one more thing. The wrestling match in the second movie, which is hilarious. It's just like, there's just a wrestling ring.
Again, in the Wikipedia notes in that, the director called up Roger Corman and was like, send me the biggest lady wrestler you can find. And he was just like, okay. Just like, don't ask questions.
And then there's a bit at the end where like Evie is sneaking through the castle, and it's like a Scooby-Doo scene where she's opening the door and then she's on this side of the... It's just so silly. And then it ends with like... I remember the first time we watched it years ago, and it ends where he saved the princess and Evie's back on the throne and they're honoring Deathstalker for his bravery. And she's like, in 1,000 years, they'll be making plays of this and people will be playing us. And the Deathstalker's like, I hope they get someone good looking to play me. And I was like, I thought the first time I watched it, I was like, I thought they were going to pull back and show that it was a movie. And it's like, so
that would have been the perfect...
They don't go full Blazing Saddles, but
that would have been a good opportunity too.
It's just... And the movie ends with bloopers. It's just such a silly kind of...
It's awesome.
It's just so much fun. That's just like dumb, cheap, sleazy kind of fantasy movie. But this one's like a self-aware parody of the genre and of the first movie specifically. They did make a third one called Deathstalker and the Warriors from Hell. Yeah, it came out in 1988. And John Allen Nelson played Deathstalker in that one, but I remember that one being kind of boring, and the guy who plays Deathstalker, we were just kind of whatever. And then the fourth one, called Deathstalker 4 Match of the Titans, came out in 91, and it was the return of Rick Hill. And we were all like, but that movie's like really cheap. It's got a bit of fun bits in it. But those movies are more serious than Deathstalker 2 is like the anomaly. And then it's like they're just this cheesy, forgotten cult movies that have just become kind of so bad they're good, kind of fun.
Yeah. When we did the first episode, on the old show, we talked about this for the first time. I remember saying, I think I said, like, you know, I wonder if one day we'll ever get anything new from the franchise. And lo and behold, Slash, of all people from Guns N' Roses, is spearheading a campaign to bring... And I should say, at the time of this recording, it's succeeded, I believe.
Yeah, 100%.
A Deathstalker graphic novel, at least one graphic novel. I don't know whether it's going to be an ongoing series or a one-off.
I think they have a series of stories that they're going to publish.
So there will be more Deathstalker in the future.
Yeah, so Slash from Guns N' Roses is teaming up with Vault Comics, who are like a kind of independent comic company, and Steven Kostansky, who's a filmmaker who makes these like hilarious kind of gory horror movies. He made Psycho Goreman, which is awesome. And they're teaming up with writer Tim Seeley, artist Jim Terry, and they're making sort of a continuation of the Deathstalker franchise, but in comic book form. And there's a Kickstarter for that, which ends this Saturday, November 11th. So by the time most listeners hear this, there'll only be a couple of days. Yeah. So if you like somehow come across this and are a big like Deathstalker fan,
support the franchise.
Yeah, support it, because like I remember I saw the Kickstarter thing and I was just like, we have to put our money where our mouth is. Like, we love this crap.
Both James and myself contributed to this Kickstarter.
I was just like, we have to get this. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And they're definitely going to be as cheesy as the movies, because the people making it understand like that.
Yeah. Hopefully it gets even more traction and we get maybe an animated series, if not an actual film.
See, this is the thing though, is you run the risk of like deliberately making a sort of so bad it's good. Like
You have to be careful.
They're trying to make it cheesy, so they're like they should just either play it serious or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think people should be very careful.
Yeah. Also, Boris Vallejo, who did the original poster artwork, which is awesome. That poster artwork is classic 80s kind of fantasy poster for the movies. He's apparently doing a new artwork for the Kickstarter, the comic book. So, so that'll be awesome. And also art from Nathan Gooden. Like, it just looks really cool. And it was like the perfect time to revisit.
Yeah.
Because for years it's like an in-joke. It would come up on the show and Callum would be like Deathstalker, haha. And I'll be like, no one knows what you're talking about because no one's listened to the 5-year-old crappy episodes that's not even available of the old show. But at least now I just wanted to give context and like put it back into the Tuesday Review canon so that even years from now, at least we can say on this episode of the Tuesday Review, we talk more about it.
Yeah.
Not that people listen to this episode specifically. They'll be like, Deathstalker, what the hell is that?
I'll leave you with this thought I had when I was thinking about Deathstalker yesterday. If they had to reboot the franchise for one more movie, you know what I would do? I would have a number one style, completely serious film. But Deathstalker would be played by Nathan Fielder as him, awkward as himself.
Oh,
but everyone would treat him like he's big, bulky, Rick Hill, scared of him and stuff. But he's just Nathan Fielder with a firm sword.
That would be hilarious.
When is the rehearsal coming back, James?
The Curse comes out this week. The new HBO
that's exciting
series with Benny Safdie and Emma Stone.
I'm excited for
Nathan,
that, but I just want the rehearsal season 2.
Yeah.
That will speak about weirdness.
Can you look it up? Did that come out the same time we reviewed the first Deathstalker?
What?
No.
The rehearsal? No.
When did
the rehearsal?
The rehearsal's only a couple
No,
years.
Finding Francis came out.
Finding Francis,
I remember now. We were going to talk about Deathstalker, but then the finale of Nathan For You came out.
See, the subconscious
it's all connected.
It's
all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah. Finding Francis, yes. Yeah. We were waiting for people and we just put something on.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Little did we know.
Maybe we have to revisit that on Tuesday Review.
Oh, I think we do. We need to talk about Nathan For You.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, the Curse. After the Curse finishes, we'll talk about that.
We'll do a Nathan Fielder special where we're just uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah. I can't do the voice, but...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Again. Say it again.
Yeah. It was like the... business schooling. I graduated from one of the top business schools.
Yeah. It's like
the top grades.
D grades, yeah. Oh, man. The scene in Finding Francis where he asks a prostitute just to say, I love you. And he's just like, again.
Yeah. Again.
So, and it goes on for too long. Oh.
The cringe is real. Oh. But anyway, Deathstalker, hilarious, crappy, sleazy B-movies from the 80s. Check them out if that's your thing.
If you like sword and sorcery.
If you like getting drunk with your friends and watching bad movies, this is definitely in that realm.
Yeah. You have to make it a double feature.
But they're also not boring. Like, there's a lot of those B movies where
and again, they're only 80 minutes.
They're barely 80 minutes. You can watch both back to back in less than 3 hours.
Yeah.
You can make a night of it. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun.
And like we say, we like all that practical kind of cheesy 80s.
Yeah.
The more Muppets, the better.
We'll post some images
of
I've
got
the
some
Deathstalker films.
I got Pigman.
We'll stretch it out over the week and we'll just give you some nuggets of images slowly. Feed you
maybe,
slowly.
and we'll link the Kickstarter. Like, we're not we're not.
Yeah. We're not paid.
This is not a paid promote. It's like
we're just fans.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, this is cool. And even though it's almost done, if you do happen to come across this,
I'm pretty sure you can contribute after it's finished anyway.
Yeah, you might be able to actually.
There's a period where you can,
and it's already been funded, so it doesn't really matter if you don't. Yeah, but there might be other. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, cool. Yeah, but you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's all we've got for tonight, everyone. We'll post more information about these on the socials. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter page, X page, I should say.
No, Twitter.
Twitter.
We're not playing Elon's game.
No. Threads page, did I say Threads?
Threads, yeah.
Newsmast.
At Tuesday Review AU.
For all the socials.
Yeah.
YouTube coming soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
We'll be back next week with more lovely content.
Rate, review, and subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that.
Eventually, we'll be able to say ring that bell, but not yet.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.